Hello, everyone. I am Biswajita Mishra from Amazon Global Selling Team and your host for today. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Amit Agarwal, Senior Vice President, India and Emerging Markets, Amazon, and Mr. Abhijit Kamra, Director, Global Trade, Amazon India, for taking out time to be here with us today. To get the event going, I would request Amit to share his views on Amazon's global selling program, its journey so far, and its relevance today and going forward.
Thank you. A very good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here with us, and I hope everybody is safe and well. It was in 2015 that we had started our e-commerce exports program, Global Selling in India. And our objective has always been to enable lakhs of MSMEs, manufacturers, traders, startups, and others to leverage Amazon's presence to reach customers around the world. In about 6 years, this program has helped 70,000 plus exporters cumulatively register 3 billion plus sales in creating global loved brands, led to thousands of jobs and overall value creation in the ecosystem. We are very humbled. We've been working with key stakeholders to make exports easier for Indian entrepreneurs, startups, and SMBs. And as part of this focus, in January 2021, we had launched the Global Selling Propel Startup Accelerator to provide dedicated support to startups and emerging brands to reach our global customers through exports program. In its inaugural edition, the program got more than 500 entries from startups in more than 100 plus cities across the country, which goes to show that today, India's brightest entrepreneurs aren't just limited to the big cities. Now, encouraged by the response from the startup community, we're excited to bring the second season of the Global Selling Propel Accelerator. I would like to thank Sequoia Capital India and Fireside Ventures for continuing to be our VC partners for this program. And at the same time, welcome Axel and DSG Consumer Partners who have come on board for season 2. This program provides a great platform for budding startups to participate, engage with leaders from different disciplines, showcase their innovative ideas, and seize the opportunity to succeed in a global business environment. India is already one of the largest startup ecosystems in the world, with over 40 startup unicorns created just in 2021. Today, Indian entrepreneurs are not held back by their scale anymore, with access to technology, capital, and world-class infrastructure at the outset. And e-commerce is already ushering in faster digitization across the consumption value chain, while enabling expanded access and opportunities for customers and businesses across the world and across our country. We continue to see the rise of several digital-first brands, we call them as D2C brands, as well as examples of legacy businesses adopting e-commerce to expand globally. According to a recent NASSCOM report, e-commerce exports from India will grow to be 125 billion by 2030. To tap this opportunity, what is needed is to prepare our entrepreneurs, our SMBs, and startups and drive transformation at scale. Impetus must be on technology adoption and creating a conducive environment for them to grow. As an ecosystem, we need to set ourselves a vision for Exports 2.0, a vision that is driven by the power of internet, by technology adoption, by use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. This vision can empower millions of entrepreneurs across India to benefit from global market access, integration with global supply chains, and enable them to create global brands. We believe there is near unlimited opportunity for Indian startups and brands to expand globally, considering their knowledge capital, innovation, and manufacturing capabilities. As India gradually moves towards economic self-reliance, the lakhs of SMBs and startups across the country will play a crucial role in boosting overall exports from the country. The Honorable Prime Minister has rightly termed startups as the backbone of New India and the engine that will power India's economic growth in the run-up to the 100th year of independence. We're very encouraged by this conviction in India's startup ecosystem and look forward to celebrating January 16th as a National Startup Day every year. At Amazon, we are focused on lowering the entry bar for sellers across the country, irrespective of their size and scale, to reach customers across India as well as to every country around the world. We look forward to working with them every day to take their local innovation and expertise from India to the world and fulfill our pledge of enabling $10 billion in cumulative exports by 2025. We are humbled to see the progress so far and committed to the future. Thank you and look forward to this.
Thank you so much, Amit. Indeed, there is unlimited opportunity for Indian startups to expand globally given their potential to innovate. It's time now to formally launch the season 2 of the Propel Startup Accelerator. Can we please play the launch video? I would now request Abhijit to share more details about Propel and also share a perspective on how e-commerce can play a key role in creating global brands and boosting overall exports from India.
Thank you, Viswajit. I would like to start by thanking everyone who's joined us here today. It's indeed a proud moment for us to announce the launch of Amazon Global Selling Propel Season 2 of the Startup Accelerator. E-commerce is transforming the way business is done, not only in India, but across the globe. And exports through e-commerce is creating immense opportunities for small businesses, startups, in an area that is traditionally limited to larger businesses. Exports through e-commerce provides an easy-to-adopt and scale mechanism for businesses of all size to grow their business outside India, enabling them to build global brands irrespective of where they are geographically located. This is done by helping small businesses and entrepreneurs run experiments directly with customers, with smaller capital investments and technology taking care of a lot of heavy lifting that's associated with exports. This allows businesses to establish product market fit, as well as stress test all the important operational aspects such as storage, shopping, shipping, handling of returns, customer service, even before they start scaling. In fact, thousands of Indian businesses have already created global brands leveraging Amazon's global selling program and infrastructure, that's helping them showcase millions of made in India products to customers in over 200 countries across the world. At our end, we are constantly looking at ways to partner with lakhs of emerging brands, MSMEs, startups, and small businesses to boost exports from our country. This was the driving factor behind the launch of Amazon Global Selling Propel Accelerator, and we're super energized by the response that this program received in season 1. And now we're happy to launch a brand new season of this program this year, and we are bringing tailored solutions, all our learning from the last season that is going to help Indian entrepreneurs in enabling them to think about creating global brands from day one. The program has been designed to provide startups in the consumer product space a chance to get the right support and guidance from industry leaders, network with their peers, present their ideas to VCs, and launch in the global markets with Amazon. As part of the program, we formed a mentorship board with leaders across Amazon, other ecosystem partners across supply chain, financial services, our VC partners from Accel, DSG, Fireside, and Sequoia Capital. The Accelerator will provide a structured mentorship program with our VC partners, business workshop with Amazon leaders, partners, and industry leaders to help scale the business globally. It will culminate with a demo day, giving the shortlisted startups an opportunity to get funding from our partners and an equity-free grant of $100,000 from Amazon for the top 3 startups. For us, the Startup Accelerator is a step towards identifying high-potential startups in India, providing them the right resources to accelerate their business and their learnings, and ultimately a platform to build and expand their business globally through e-commerce. Our exports program provides businesses access to sell directly to millions of customers worldwide through 17 global marketplaces. India has a very promising journey ahead in exports-led economic growth. The government has set a very clear vision of making India an exports hub, and the country is on track to achieve $650 billion of exports in this current financial year. Of this, $400 billion is expected to come with exports, and there lie large opportunities for our startups. As India continues to further scale its exports ambition, it will be important to enable millions of SMEs to start exporting. Global supply chains are undergoing massive restructuring right now. And this is the time for our MSMEs to get deeply integrated in competitive but rewarding global markets. And this is where we believe Amazon can step in and help. So very excited by launching the season 2 of our Propel Accelerator and wishing everybody a lot of success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhijit. I would now like to invite Mr. Amitabh Kant to share his thoughts with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be at this event today where I'm seeing an amalgamation of two of India's critical priorities, exports and startups. In order to become an export champion and the technology hub of the world, our ability to add to our vibrant startup ecosystem and allow them to get integrated with the global value chains holds immense potential. India is at the cusp of a digital revolution right now. Although COVID has disrupted business in a big way, it has also provided an opportunity to maximize the use of technology. We are witnessing massive levels of technological leapfrogging right now with an unprecedented level of digitization and technological disruption. This is an opportune time for India because global supply trade chains are undergoing a massive restructuring, and there has never been a better time for Indian businesses, MSMEs, and startups to get deeply integrated into evolving global supply chains. I'm a firm believer that if India is to grow, we have to look at global markets and become a key exporting nation, but not only leveraging the existing physical infrastructure, but also focusing on cross-border e-commerce and process digitization. India has grown at rapid rates when exports have grown. Getting our startups integrated into exports can be a potential game changer for India. I always encourage Indian companies to think big and produce a global scale in order to penetrate new markets. What you get from export markets is far more than what's available in the domestic market. Use the strength of the latter to penetrate global markets, and if you are at the right size and scale, then your cost of production will fall radically. And if you can think about a global expansion strategy in the early days of your business itself, then nothing can stop you from becoming highly competitive in global markets. India's startup ecosystem is one of the richest and thriving ecosystems in the world right now. In 2021, we had added 3 to 4 unicorns every month and are now the third largest startup ecosystem in the world with 67,000 startups and well over 83 unicorns. Our startups have broken all records with over $40 billion of investments flowing into Indian startups in 2021. This is over 3 times more than 11.1 billion in total funding that startups received during 2020. So many of our startups are making a debut in global markets, and this is just the start. I believe this is the sign of the times to come. We will make in India and make for the world. We will innovate in India and innovate for the world. Startups are about innovation, and innovation comes out best when you are challenged. I want our young startups to challenge themselves right from the start, to think of building globally successful brands. When they think about the captive markets, our startups should think about captive markets across the world. That is the vision of a new India. That is how our self-reliance initiative fits into the larger global picture. Therefore, I would like to congratulate Amazon for putting together such a unique accelerator program that will focus on enabling Indian startups to become strong global brands. Today, Amazon is launching the second season of Global Selling Propel Accelerator, through which hundreds of startups will get support and mentorship from top VCs, industry experts and veterans and from across the world. Our startups should benchmark themselves against the world's best and strive to become better than the world's best. I'm sure that with the guidance and resources that Amazon and VC partners like Sequoia Capital, Fireside Venture, Accel Partners, and DSG Consumer will provide as part of the Propel Accelerator program, a lot of startups will be able to identify global opportunities and leap ahead using cutting-edge technology. Let us make in India and make for the world. This is what the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has said. Our objective should be to penetrate global markets. Think of size and scale. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Mr. Amitabh, for your encouraging words. With this, we come to the end of this section of our program. Thank you to our chief guest, Mr. Amitabh Kant. Thank you, Amit and Abhijit, for joining us today. Now, before we move on to panel discussion, we have put together something special for you. And we also want to take this opportunity to introduce you to a special guest. Take a look.
It's rightly said that the best way to be prepared for tomorrow is to give your best today. Hi, this is Kunal, and I'm actually very excited to be part of Season 2 of the Amazon Global Selling Propel Accelerator. Well, as everybody knows, the Indian ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, is bursting with the passion and energy to solve some very complex problems. So even though the Josh is high, I think I can tell you from my own personal experience that being an entrepreneur can be something that's very challenging. That's something that can be very, very difficult, which is why I think it's great that as a country and as an ecosystem, we're all coming together to make sure that these entrepreneurs have the support that they need for their innovation. And I think it's especially heartening to see a player like Amazon come forward and create an ecosystem that gives a chance to these entrepreneurs to dream really, really big. And I can go on, but I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Abhijit Kamra. He's the director of Amazon Global Selling, the team behind this program. Hi, Abhijit. Really nice to have you here. And after a really successful Season 1, we'd love to know what you have in store for Season 2.
Thanks a lot, Kunal. I'm so excited to have you as part of our launch event for Propel Season 2. I think Season 2 is simply just double down on everything that worked in Season 1 and talk to startup founders, understand what else they thought was required and bring all of that. So we've taken a lot of learnings from season 1 and have built those into make the second season more in tune with what startups and emerging brands are looking for. But more importantly, it's bringing an opportunity for thousands or lakhs of startups across our country to leverage the power of technology and e-commerce to create global brands. From the day we launched our exports program, which is Amazon Global Selling, our focus has been to enable Indian businesses of all shapes, sizes across from the length and breadth of our country to be successful and build global brands.
Well, thank you so much, Abhijit. It's wonderful to understand what's in store for season 2. But I think this program won't be complete without talking to the winners of season 1, which is why we have with us Meghna Narayan, the co-founder of Slurp Farm, which was the winner of last year's program, and also Deep Bajaj, founder of Sirona, which was the runner-up of last year. Hi guys, really nice to have you here.
Thanks, Kunal. Really excited to share. We benefited a lot from winning the Propel program. But what Shorvi and I set out to build 5 years ago was a health food company focused on young children. So that's what Slurp Farm does. We make really, really yummy food that's also healthy. It's very much a brand built by two mothers for the mums of India. Traditionally, India has always imported brands and exported commodities. It's really time to change that. And I'm really excited to be part of this group, right, with Deep and so many others, who are building brands that are going to sort of take on the world. The Propel program has been amazing for all of us. We've grown about 6x, in the UK. We've just launched in the UAE as well. So it's really going well. We're busy, telling the story, sort of taking the millet revolution west, really. So thank you so much, Amazon. The team at Amazon has been amazing.
Very well said, Meghna. She's covered everything that is to be said about the program, right? I would say for us at Sirona, we stand for solving unaddressed, intimate and menstrual hygiene issues faced by women. And we started from India. We are a D2C brand, largely built on Amazon. Hygiene, it is assumed, is a problem only for India and Indian women. However, whether it is toilet hygiene, intimate hygiene, menstrual hygiene, which we've solved with our brands, we were surprised to see the kind of reception we got internationally. But I think Propel program opened our eyes, and it was fantastic, right from the access, given through different tools that are there to simplify sales, to making the logistics simpler for us, to connecting us to partners, or to just making it available at Amazon warehouses. Or the process was simplified like 1, 2, 3. So guys, just go for it. Just apply and go for it. Rest Amazon team will help you scale. Everything else is taken care of. You just produce it, they'll sell it.
I think there's going to be a lot of takers for season 2 after hearing your experiences and hearing how this has supported your journey. I think you guys have inspired a lot of people, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of new, fresh entrepreneurs and startups that are going to apply for season 2 now.
So how do you pick your movies and how do you pick your investments? What are the common factors, or are there none?
I think, strangely people think that, I often say this, people think that entrepreneurship is not creative. I think it's possibly the most creative thing because you're actually trying to disrupt something that's existed for a long time. And to do that, you have to be very creative. So I think what I see as the commonality between the two is, one is, when you're choosing a movie, you're like, how passionate is the filmmaker about this movie? Because you could have an ordinary script, but you could have a filmmaker who presents it very differently and is very passionate about it. Similarly, you're looking for the same thing in founders, is that how passionate is the founder about what they're trying to build, and are they going to see this through when it gets difficult as well? So I think passion is one thing for sure. The second is, of course, the story that the brand is telling, the story that the movie is telling. And I think the third thing, which I find very important as an entrepreneur, is the ability to sort of listen to people and take their feedback. I think those are things that I think are really important. Well, thank you, Deep, and thank you, Meghna, for being here with us. And, all the very best for the incredible work that you're doing. And thank you for sharing all your thoughts and your experiences. I think it's going to inspire a lot of young founders and a lot of young startups. If you are somebody that has the passion and energy and is looking for support, this is the place to be.
With that, we are now ready for the panel discussion. I will hand it over to Meghna Narayan, co-founder Slub Farm, who will be hosting this session with key industry leaders and VC partners for the Propel Accelerator. Interestingly, Slub Farm was the winner of season 1 of this program. Over to you, Meghna.
More than 40 unicorn startups emerged in India in 2021 alone. And with this, India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. The rapid pace of digital adoption, growing access to capital, growth of e-commerce is leading to a number of born to the internet D2C brands. These brands aren't just serving the Indian market, but are delighting customers across the world. In this session, we have 5 rock stars who have seen it all. In today's discussion, we will share what it takes to create global brands, what do Indian entrepreneurs need to focus on, and how this confluence of technology, e-commerce, capital can be rocket fuel for innovation across India. Hello, everyone. I'm Meghna Narayan, the co-founder of Slub Farm. We are 2 mothers on a mission to get children and their families across the world eating healthy. We launched Slub Farm in October of 2016 with 6 products and are now shipping over 40 plus products to over 2 million tummies across the country. Our focus always has been about building a brand that provides tasty, healthy, convenient, and affordable products. And we launched with Amazon, pan-India, on day 0, over 5 years ago. Over the last few months, we've also launched in the UK, the US, and the UAE markets. And we intend to double down on global marketplaces in 2022 with the aim to grow to a 500 crore company in the next 36 months. The world around us has changed in the last few years, and so has the way to do business. Today, entrepreneurs across India are using technology to reach customers across the country in a way that has never been done before. We are seeing a number of new product categories getting created and newer ways to engage customers. There are thousands of startups just like Slub Farm, which have great examples all over the country. We were just one of 500 emerging brands who participated in the first season of the Amazon Global Selling Propel Accelerator startup. And today is the launch of season 2 of this program. I have the honor of bringing to you 5 leaders who know a fair bit about innovation, about startups, and what it takes to build great brands. I will ask them all important and possibly some difficult questions on behalf of all the curious entrepreneurs out there who have joined us today. I would also like to start by introducing this wonderful panel. We have with us Rajan Anandan. Rajan is the MD of Surge and Sequoia Capital. As part of the leadership team at Sequoia, Rajan has focused on developing Surge into the world's top scale-up program for startups. Prior to Sequoia, as the VP of Google India and Southeast Asia, Rajan played a key role in expanding the region's internet ecosystem. He is also a prolific angel investor for early-stage startups. Welcome to the panel, Rajan. Thank you for joining us today. Kavaljeet Singh. Kaval is the founder and managing partner of Fireside Ventures. Kaval has been passionate about mentoring and helping build consumer brands in India and has been involved as an investor in several iconic brands. Kaval has been investing in the early stage ecosystem for the past 19 years. And prior to his investing career, Kaval spent over 13 years in consumer marketing at Unilever, Hindustan Unilever, and Intel India. Welcome to the panel, Kaval. Thank you for joining us. Prashant Prakash. Prashant is the founding partner at Accel India, where his primary focus is on online marketplaces, B2B, and SaaS. He has led investments in 30 Indian technology startups and serves as a board member in 16 companies. He has been investing in Indian technology startups much before they acquired global attention. He started his investing career as the co-founder of Erasmic. Prior to that, he co-founded Netcraft. Prashant is actively involved in social entrepreneurship ventures that work to improve education and the quality of the environment in this country. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hariharan Prem Kumar. Hari leads the India office of DSG Consumer Partners. DSG is India and SEA's first consumer-focused fund that started in 2012. Before DSG, he was at People Capital, a growth stage buyout firm. His investment experience includes leading investments in Sleepy Cat, Super Bottoms, Power Gummies, Vista Rooms, Nutrova, and more. Previously, he had a successful stint at Rothschild Private Equity, Veda Corporate Advisors, Accenture Management Consulting, and Oracle Server Technologies. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Meghna.
Abhijit Majumdar. Abhijit is the head of Amazon Sambhav Venture Fund and Corporate Development at Amazon. He has been with Amazon for over 7 years. Abhijit has been a venture investor for over 14 years and has invested and been on the board of several companies across consumer internet, transportation, fintech, software, and direct-to-consumer brands, and of course, e-commerce. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's just dive into the questions. My first question is for you, Hari. So, how has the perspective of Indian brands exploring global marketplaces changed over the past few years? And, given your experience, of course, what does the VC community make of this trend?
Great. First of all, thank you, Meghna and Amazon, for this opportunity. It's a privilege to be, part of this panel. On just this trend of Indian brands exploring global markets, it's something that started maybe 3-4 years back, and we're seeing more and more of our brands in our portfolio, exploring global markets fairly early on in their journey. I think the main driver is really, e-commerce and how it's broken down barriers to distribution and discovery. Because as you mentioned, we've been investing since 2012, and a lot of our earlier investments were offline first brands. And, we used to follow the, tried and tested model of starting off with your home geography and truly dominating your home geography before, earning your right to spread yourself further and enter other markets. But the interesting thing that the internet does is, traditionally, when we talk about focus early on in a brand's journey, it's, in the consumer world, we're talking about focus from a geography standpoint. But the internet has sort of created this interesting dynamic where, you have consumers across different geographies that are very similar in terms of their aspirations, in terms of the way they go through their purchase journey, the consideration set, etc. So what that has allowed to now is for brands to target this sort of homogeneous customer segment that's geographically spread out, while staying true to the brand's values and purpose, etc. So, I think that's the interesting trend. And obviously with the online channel, it just adds that element of non-linearity when it comes to growth trajectory, etc. So, all of a sudden the growth profile sort of fits in with what tech investors would appreciate as well. So, that's what we're seeing in the market. Early on, the reason we began our journey as a consumer-focused fund was that brands typically take longer to build and it requires a lot of patience. But this, element of non-linearity in growth with the digital channel and this ability to, target other markets early on has just opened the, just created a lot more options for consumer founders.
I think that said, it's like consumers across the country as well, right? It's not, there's a mother in sort of West India. We used to always joke that my A-type sort of South Indian mother is no different from a Jewish Upper East Side mother in New York City. So I think, yes, there are consumers across the world who think, along the same lines. Prashant, I'm going to come to you next. With a plethora of frameworks and strategies available online, how do entrepreneurs assess what they should focus on? Continue to build in India or go global?
I guess first, yeah, sorry, you can go ahead.
And how do they think about timing as well? And just add that into the mix.
Right. So I think, first of all, I guess you have to start getting some traction in your journey before you think anything international. So the 0 to 1 part of your journey is never easy. So even whether you have platforms like Amazon or any of those, it's still doesn't take away from the very core basics of getting your brand positioning right, your TG or the demographic right, getting your first few customers to really love your brand and become your brand ambassadors. So all of those are still, really hygiene. And I think a lot of, I see, just getting a little bit of sales on one of these online platforms is not going to build a brand. So really focusing on that brand in that 0 to 1 part of your journey and getting that sharpness in positioning, I think is very, very critical. And I would, for first 12 months, I think just do that, right? And then you can think of scaling and expansion. And then in the expansion phase, I think being capital efficient, right? So how do you build a community? How do you have the community to and the content around that community to start working for you, right? Even before you start pushing the pedal on other forms of scaling, because that's also a good test, a litmus test of your customers actually caring for you and falling in love with your brand, right? So how do you get that content engine to become kind of the fulcrum of your scaling journey, right? So that is the next thing when you're talking about timing and sequencing some of these things. And third, portfolio, right? So no brand is really one product. It's really some, over a period of time, hundreds of products. So how do you build that portfolio construct? How do you build the subcategories, phase out those subcategories, build the right production capabilities for those subcategories? So all of that then starts to become really key and important, and the metrics of retention and expansion start becoming important, right? So you need at least 20 to 30% of your customers for most medium level AOVs in India. 20 to 30% of your customers have to be buying at least 5-6 times a year. So once all of these are in place to some extent, in about 18 months, I think a brand can, 18 to 20 months, they can get this in place. Then I would start looking at international expansion. We can talk a little bit, I'm sure other folks will talk about, how do you really get to this international expansion. But for the first 20 months, I would really focus on these metrics and these components.
Yeah, I think there's no sort of shortcut in that sense. That product market fit has to be achieved. Otherwise, you'll just be spinning your wheels. Yeah. Abhijit, I'm coming to you next. How does Amazon view this whole space, right? The startup space, both from an enablement, because there's no question you have been an enabler for so many brands, but also, given sort of where you sit within the Amazon system, from an investment perspective.
Yeah. Firstly, very nice to meet you again, Meghna, and thank you very much for a very warm welcome. Congratulations on having built Slurp. I think from our point of view, we are super excited about the momentum that we've been seeing in the Indian startup ecosystem since the last 7 to 8 years that we've been in India. We've seen a lot of innovation, of course, along with a lot of venture funds and investors. And if I'm not mistaken, India would probably be the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, I believe after the US and China. And just the consumer population in India is so large that it's hard to not be a part of it. I think from our investment perspective, our mission has been to invest in most compelling startups and sharp entrepreneurs. Very recently, we actually decided to start investing far earlier in the journey of entrepreneurs as compared to what we would do the first few years of our investing journey. I would say in the last 8 odd years, just in the startup ecosystem, we would have invested several $100 million across fintech and consumer, SMBs and software. I would say from an enabling point of view, my personal belief is that SMB is the backbone of this country, and it's pretty unique in this country. If you look at the US or China or some other geography which has a fairly large head and then a medium-sized torso and then probably a large tail. India, in my view, kind of has a very small head and an excessively large tail, which has created many SMBs. And when you have such a large industry which holds as the backbone of this country, and if you give them tools and infrastructure via technology, I think the non-linear growth that they can see is immense. And that's why I think technology can really enable these SMBs not only to build Indian businesses but go global as well. So yeah, generally just seeing the kind of success and happiness that we've seen by investing in all these early stage Indian startup ecosystem. We actually just launched last year a venture fund, a $250 million venture fund called the Amazon Summer Venture Fund. That's just a testament of the success that we've seen in the startup ecosystem.
Fantastic. I think earlier and earlier, right? That's sort of where the party's at. Rajan, coming to you next. So Rajan was a mentor on the last, on season 1, and he's often said, right, it's a great time to build, global brands out of India. What did you actually mean by this? I clearly wasn't listening well enough. And how do you see this opportunity evolving over the next few years?
Yeah, thank you, Meghna, and great to see you again. And congratulations, by the way, on the success. Actually, what I mean by that is you just have to look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, a year ago you were just selling in India, and today you're selling in all these countries around the world, right? So I think, look, first and foremost, it's a great time to be building global businesses from India, right? Global businesses across many sectors, and I think brands is one important sort of type of businesses that you can be building in India. Now, when it comes to brands, as all of us know, and hopefully everybody who's listening knows, who's attending the session knows, is over the last, I'd say 3-4 years, right, we've started seeing a rapid growth of new brands coming out of India. But it's not just India, right? We've seen this notion, this direct-to-consumer phenomenon take off all over the world, right? Be it in the US, be it in Brazil, be it in the Middle East, be it in Indonesia, be it in China. I think that's one big thing, right? Which is it's become easier to launch a brand, right? If you go back 20 years, you had to have factories, you have to have supply chains. It was very difficult to do sourcing. It was very difficult to kind of actually get a product, manufactured and just before selling, it just getting manufactured, right? So a lot of that has changed today, right? Like a lot of that underlying infrastructure has been now developed, where you can get a brand up and running very, very quickly, as long as you know what kind of product to build with what kind of brand ethos, with what kind of ingredients, you can actually get all that. So that combined with the fact that especially in countries like India and other emerging markets, you've seen a rapidly growing middle class, hundreds of millions of consumers who now have disposable income, and they don't really want to buy what their parents want to buy, right? My daughter doesn't definitely want to buy the brands that I want to buy, right? So they want to buy new, fresh, sort of interesting, story-driven sort of brand. So that's on the one hand what you've started seeing. I think what has changed over the last couple of years, and I think in India we have to be very, very thankful to Amazon, is these global selling platforms, right? So even if you go back, let's say 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, if you had a brand, let's just say, let's pick a company a search company, right? We have a company called Skillmatics. They make educational toys for kids. 90% of their revenue actually comes from the US. Now, if one of the reasons they're actually as successful as they are today is because they're able to sell to US customers on Amazon, right? And they don't have to go and now they're slowly getting distribution offline in the US and so on and so forth, right? So a global selling platform essentially opens up the world for a brand. If you have a strong product that makes sense with a certain kind of consumers, etc. All of a sudden, the simplest way I think about it is, India is, let's call it $2.5 trillion of GDP, right? The global GDP is $80 trillion, right? All of a sudden, why would you only cater to $2.5 trillion of GDP? you can actually today, doesn't matter actually what business you're in most businesses today, actually what is at play is $80 trillion, right? Now, as a consumer product brand, if you didn't have, if e-commerce hadn't penetrated to the extent that it did in most countries around the world, then it was difficult, because then you had to go to a different country, you have to set up an office there, you have to actually go figure out how to get shelf space in all these retailers, right? Or that's like a decade-long journey, right? But first e-commerce happened, right? It became easier to actually be able to sell to any consumer anywhere in the world. But then I think the advent of, or the creation of these global selling platforms, I think Amazon has led the way, at least in the markets that I'm familiar with. All of a sudden today, if you're an entrepreneur, let's just say I'm based in Delhi, so you're in Delhi, you're making a brand, could be an Ayurvedic brand, could be a toy brand like a Skillmatics, or could be whatever brand that you want. All of a sudden, I think it becomes so much easier for you to start selling in the US or UK or the Middle East or Japan, right? Because now I don't have to visit that country. I don't have to go set up an office there. I don't have to find warehousing space. All of that is taken care of. What I have to really worry about as a brand owner is, do I have a product that works for a certain set of customers in the US? Don't get me wrong, it's very, very difficult. But now I don't have to actually take care of all the other sort of things that I would have had to normally take care of, if these global selling platforms it didn't exist, right? And so I think so basically, if you look at it today, on the one hand, you have large number of brands being formed. I think in India we have several thousand, and Kanwal knows this. He's the he has the resident PhD. He's the inventor of the venture community when it comes to these direct to consumer brands. There have several thousand of these brands in India, and all of a sudden, it's not just the Indian consumer that they could target. They could actually target any consumer anywhere in the world, as long as there are e-commerce platforms, and as long as there are these things called, these sort of end-to-end capabilities called the global selling platforms. I think that's what's changed. And today, it's very interesting. Within our portfolio, we had a beauty brand that went from 0 to 100 crores in 9 months. Okay, it's the fastest 0 to 100 crore brand ever built out, that 30% profit after tax. Okay, and 9 months, now they're like much bigger. But actually, that is only selling to Indian consumers. Now, what I am inspired by is what could happen if you could get that right in a global market. And let's say whether it's the US or the UK, these markets are all orders of magnitude bigger than India, right? So that's the record to break. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur attending this session, 0 to 100 crores in 9 months, that's a record to break. And you should be able to break that because if you're targeting a market that's 25 times bigger than the Indian market, which I think most subsegments in the US are, you should be able to do that.
Rajan, always there, raising the bar and setting really crazy targets. So 0 to 100 guys in 9 months. That's the record to beat. I'm going to come to you, Kanwal. Brand building and storytelling is, clearly really important in the journey. But how do you think about that in sort of how important is that in, creating a sustainable business globally? And how do you think about that for each market that you address?
Let me answer that in 2 or 3 different ways. And before that, I'll, offline take up with Rajan on 0 to 100 in 9 months. We have some interesting thoughts there as well. So, eventually, if you ask me personally, I feel all brand building comes down to storytelling. You've got a great product, you've identified your customer, you know that there is a connect. Now, how you communicate that is really all about telling the stories which are authentic, stories which are relevant, stories which connect with that consumer. And I think if you get that piece right, then not only are you selling a great product, but you're building a relationship with the consumer. And that is really what makes the brand. So very often we meet young entrepreneurs and they're very obsessed about saying, I've got a great product and therefore I'm going to build a great business, which is the almost table stakes. You have to have a great product. But that is not enough. You need to have a great brand which communicates that great product to the right audience. So I think what we have learned over the last few years is that stories are becoming very interesting because they are also personal stories of the people who are launching brands. So, I worked with Unilever for 10 years, but I can tell you hand on heart that, you can't say that this is my story as a brand manager in Unilever because I'm an employee of a large corporate. But when Meghna says that I'm a mother and I'm making this, product for your children, or when Varun and Ghazal say that we've made Mama Earth products because our kid needed some of those products, the authenticity of that message becomes very different. So I think at the grassroots level, at the fundamental level, storytelling is really about connecting with the consumer. Now, the second part is, how do you create that storytelling platform? I think Prashant alluded to that. And personally, I feel that we are getting over obsessed with performance marketing. Everything has to be measured in dollars and metrics and all that. And we forget the art of building brands, the art of communicating with consumers. So content, what kind of communication you're doing with the consumer. I think, again, my strong message to anybody listening to this who's a wannabe or an entrepreneur is, don't forget that that connection with the consumer has to go beyond just an ad on Facebook which gives you a certain ROAS or CAC or whatever it is. And the third piece is that if you get this element right, then exactly like you said, the world is your oyster. Because the consumer who identifies with that proposition could be sitting anywhere in the world. So today, the access, what Rajan said, is through global platforms like Amazon, through all the ecosystem enablers that are almost conspiring to make brands successful. All that is available as toolkits. So you have to find your fit and the right products and the right communication stories. I think you can build some very exciting brands today because you have this ecosystem to leverage. So great time to build global brands.
So I think getting the story right and really, reaching somebody in, at their heart or solar plexus is what is really going to, sort of help you sort of really create that long-term association with the customer. Prashant, I'm coming back to you. Indian exports have seen a significant increase month on month. How can Indian brands capitalize on this? What are the elements that brands must consider before deciding to be global?
So what I'm seeing here, Meghna, is a little bit also two worlds. There's the closer Southeast Asia, Middle East, this part of the world. And of course, that's still like Rajan said, a much bigger TAM than just the India TAM, right? This region. And then you have the Western geographies, which is another kind of world, right? So there are, and it's good to kind of think of these two worlds sometimes, because customer perceptions are very different. Although it's the same kind of customer, the customer perception in how they view an Indian brand, right, could be very different based on what the product is. If it's a food product, they'll be worried, where is it being manufactured? Is it being manufactured in India? Is it being manufactured in Germany? Or if it's a beauty product, they'll worry, is it being manufactured in Korea? Is it being manufactured in France? Where is so there are these 2-3 other layers of nuance which the entrepreneur should start thinking about. That is the first part. The second thing, what I've seen is they underestimate the logistics and the supply chain. 80% of the entrepreneurs who I've seen do reasonably okay for the first 500 products, 1,000 products. They just have no plan in terms of the supply chain complexities, single failure points, just diversification of manufacturing capabilities, and also some vertical integration, some exclusivity, just so that you have better control of quality, better control. So all these are, other layers that, you need to start thinking about. So, a good global brand will have its manufacturing at least in 3 to 4 countries. A good global brand will have at least 2 to 3 exclusive manufacturing relationships, right? A good global brand would have figured out, definitely start with these global selling platforms, but would have figured out 1 or 2 other channels and mechanisms to scale, right? So all these are things that the entrepreneurs should start thinking about. If they start, it's very complex. International, beyond the first 5 million ton, I mean, the first 100 crores, like Rajan said, in India is okay, doable, but the first 100 crores internationally is a lot more complex, and the 1,000 crores internationally, when you go multi-country and multi-geography, is 10x more complex. So the larger the TAM, also larger the complexity.
Sure. Of course. I mean, absolutely, no question. Rajan, coming back to you, Sequoia has an accelerator program as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program? I think there'll be many entrepreneurs out there who'd be interested in knowing this.
No, I mean, look, Sequoia's program is Surge. It's a seed stage program that we launched 3 years ago to help seed stage founders, improve their odds of being able to, launch and scale their companies, right? And what we really do is, we provide capital, $1 to $2 million per company, and then we work with companies over about 16 weeks to help them on all the important aspects of building their company, right? Seed stage companies, most important question you have to ask is, do you have product market fit or not, right? So for instance, we go very, very deep. You have small cohorts, so 15 to 20 companies per cohort. We have 2 cohorts per year. So whether it's how to build your team, how to hire engineers, all the way through, like how do you really think about growth marketing in a sensible way? If you're a B2B company, how do you really build out your sales teams for going to market? And then, towards the end of it, we, spend a lot of time around topics like fundraising, follow-on fundraising, and so on and so forth. So that's part 2. And then third, whenever the companies are ready to raise their next round, we help them raise their next round through one-on-one meetings with the top 50 investors in the world who make Series A investments. So that's really what it is. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what we try to do with Surge is really bring Sequoia's institutional knowledge over 50 years of working with companies at the seed stages, right, to help early stage founders, right? And in many ways, it's very similar to the Amazon Accelerator that I think you all went through, Meghna, which is, if you're trying to build a brand globally, you don't need to sort of reinvent the wheel, right? There are probably 1,000 lessons that you can learn from others that have gone through that journey, as well as Amazon and others who have enabled those journeys. So I think at least the founders have found it very, very valuable to learn from others, right? It's really about learning so that you can reflect and then not make the mistakes others have made, and then also over a period of time. And now we have 112 companies, 250 founders. It's become a very powerful community where founders just learn from themselves and they're always there for themselves, and so on and so forth. So I do think these programs, there are quite a number of them in India and in our region, can be very, very useful as long as you're very focused. I think as an entrepreneur, you should ask the question, what is it that I'm looking for help on, right? And find a program that really works for you, because different programs will work for different entrepreneurs. So if you're a brand, let's say in India, and you're thinking you have global ambitions, then something like the Amazon Launchpad or the Global Accelerator is a very, very powerful platform, because hopefully at the end of the several months that you're in the program, you would have figured out which markets to focus on, and then hopefully you would have not just figured out, but you would have already tried some experiments so you can figure out are you likely to be able to do something in those markets?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've been at this for 5 years now, and the mentors that have helped us through this journey is invaluable. Also, the peer group. I still remember I called somebody to do a ref check on a candidate, and with another founder, and we got talking, and then he said, "How much time do you have?" So I was like, no, tell me. So he said, "No, I'll tell you my top 100 mistakes so you can go make new ones." So I think that peer group, I'm sure, is a pretty special to be part of a community like that. Abhijit, coming to you, the Amazon Sambha Venture Fund, what is Amazon's vision with that fund?
Sure. As I was telling earlier, just from the 8 years of investing and startup success that we've seen, we wanted to formalize this process and have a brand around it. This when we launched this fund called Amazon Sambha Venture Fund. It's a $250 million early stage fund. Our theme has been to invest across a single roadmap, which we call it the SMB digitization. As I had mentioned earlier, SMB being the backbone of India, I think businesses that touch SMBs and kind of digitize them could definitely have potential to be very large. So that's been our first roadmap. We'll add more roadmaps as we move along. It's just been about a year since we launched this fund. We started with two sector focus for the moment. It is agriculture and healthcare. As we're moving along, we'll announce a couple more new sectors in 22, in 23 and 24 to make it more broad-based. Some of our investments have been MyGlam, M1 Exchange, Small Case. It's a result of seeing a lot of success after investing for such a long time in India.
Nice. Hari, I'm going to come to you next. You've invested in an array of D2C brands, many of them aiming to go global. What are the key metrics you look at while evaluating an investment?
So we are a fund that typically invests anywhere from inception to Series A. For us, our biggest consideration is the founder. The metrics are more second order questions in our mind. So the first question is us having comfort on the founder having a superpower or an unfair advantage to build an iconic, enduring brand, right? So that's like sort of the first question that we're asking ourselves. The next one, when it comes to the brand itself, is we sort of take two approaches. One is whether we think the brand has the potential to become a category-defining brand, right? Like say a Viva in our portfolio, Viva in sauces, Epigamia and Greek yogurt. In DTC, we have Super Bottoms, which is synonymous with cloth diapering. So, that is one approach on whether it can be a category-defining brand. The other is where, we ask ourselves whether the brand can truly own a certain positioning in the minds of the customer. So here it may not, be synonymous with the category, but a certain positioning. Like for instance, Sleepy Owl is a brand that, that stands for cold brew coffee within the coffee category. And there's Arata, which is going after the curly hair segment within personal care, right? That's another wide space that can, travel multiple geographies because 70% of the population has some, degree of curliness in their hair, and you don't have a curly hair brand that, that's best suited for those customers. So that's sort of the two high-level questions we ask ourselves, from a brand standpoint. When it comes to metrics, our philosophy is that in consumer brands, founders are better off building businesses in a sustainable manner and with a strong focus on, capital efficiency, etc. So we tend to, on the metrics, we tend to focus a lot more on fundamental metrics as opposed to, just growth metrics. And there are two broad buckets. One is the business metrics and the second is brand metrics. So, with respect to business metrics, we're not very obsessed about just absolute revenue figures. We are focused on quality of revenues as opposed to just sheer absolute revenues, right? And quality of revenues in the sense of, retention metrics with respect to customers, the gross margins, marketing efficiencies from a return on ad spend standpoint, etc. So that's what we are, measuring and trying to assess how sticky the customer base is and, whether the business can be built in a sustainable manner, etc. And on the brand side, it's metrics such as, the NPS scores, and we do look at, ratings on Amazon very closely. And there's also this, other interesting framework that's come up recently, which is called the Sean Ellis test. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's another new, customer satisfaction index that's really powerful and is a very useful lead indicator on, customer love, satisfaction, etc. So we tend to focus a lot more on fundamental metrics, and that also gives us a sense of the intensity of the customer pain point that the brand is solving for. And our view is if that intensity is really sharp and strong, over time, it's about finding other customers that are similar to your initial early adopters, right? And one can build a brand, in a sustainable fashion. So that's sort of how we look at metrics, etc.
That's pretty cool. I have to check out the Sean Ellis test and see how our customers do on that one. Kaval, you're going to wrap this up for us with, I have to ask you this question. What's the most important thing you look at when you're evaluating a potential investment in a startup?
I think let me dwell a little bit on the core of everything that happens here, which is really the founders. And that is, like Hari said, almost, the make or break. I would rather take a great founding team in an average business model rather than a great business model with an average founder any day. I mean, and I have seen, pivots in companies, company after company, where the founders have managed to, come out of very tough situations. So I would say that, again, from personal experience of having done this for so many years now, I think Prashant and I were around when nobody else was really investing at that point of time. I think you just get a very strong sense of, what kind of founders you want to work with, because at one level, it's a lonely business. It's also a very tough business. Every day is a new challenge, is a new chaos. So you need supermen and superwomen who actually can, truly give up everything else, not just great jobs, but, maybe peace of mind, maybe family life to become entrepreneurs. So I have deep respect personally for anybody who wants to start a business. And if you can get that very strong conviction that this is somebody who will, put everything they have, their passion, their belief, their last, sweat and blood, then I'm saying, like Hari said, I don't want to repeat everything, but pretty much the same context of, looking at market, looking at what are the key differentiators and so on. But, I would really look for supermen as the reason to invest. And that's the only reason I would invest, if nothing else is that important.
So we have a lot of them actually listening in today to the call, there are about hundreds of entrepreneurs actually watching us today. And what are your last thoughts on, as you think about this journey, what is the mantras for success, if you will? Let's start with Rajan, then go to Hari, Kaval, Prashant, and close with Abhijit.
Yeah, I think, build a product that your customers are going to absolutely love and can't live without.
Great. No, I think it's a really exciting time to be a consumer founder, all the way from the options when it comes to raising capital to exit. There are so many options that wasn't there before. And as I said, I think as consumer founders, it's important to understand that you can build brands in a sustainable way. You needn't feel the pressure to, scale up rapidly, etc. And it's like you can definitely drive the business and brand to a meaningful outcome by building sustainably.
My one-word message is self-belief. Saying this is a great time to build brands. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to Shark Tank. Don't listen to VCs even. Just believe in yourself. I think more and more entrepreneurs and more brands will emerge out of India. Very excited about the opportunity right now.
Yeah, so I think I totally agree with Rajan in terms of the huge global opportunity. It just requires multidimensional problem solving and thinking. Be prepared for that.
I would say, I think the most important thing is to think customer backwards. And it's a very Amazon philosophy, but it's literally worked for every single business that I have seen, at least in my short career, and be very less competitive focused. And I think go back to the instance of why you actually build this business. You build something for a customer need, not to compete with somebody. I think if you stick to those basics, you will have built a big business.
Thank you all so much, for that really uplifting conversation. There never really has been a better time to build a brand, both in India and in the world. So, as Rajan says, there's a $80 trillion TAM. Rajan, you're going to get a lot of pitch decks with that number in it. I'm just warning you. But Really, truly, thank you so much for everybody for your time today. As a quick event recap, Amazon has just announced the second season of their startup Accelerator in partnership with Fireside Ventures, Sequoia Capital India, Accel, DSG Consumer Partners, offering workshops with Amazon leaders, VC partners, veteran founders, and industry experts, opportunities to pitch to top VCs, dedicated support for global marketplace launches, dedicated one-on-one mentorship with a VC fund, and of course, the 100K equity free grant to the top 3 winners. So to all the entrepreneurs out there who are looking to build brands across geographies, this program is designed for you. Please do apply. This really brings us to the end of today's show. I just want to thank all of you who have joined us digitally. I'm sure the audience is as inspired as I am by all of you and all the stories that you shared today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Meghna.
Thank you, Meghna.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was indeed an engrossing discussion. A lot of tips, a lot of ideas. So with that, we come to the end of today's event. I would like to thank everyone who was part of the launch event today, starting with our VC partners, Accel, DSG Partners, Fireside Ventures, and Sequoia Capital, Deep and Meghna, who were the winners of Season 1, and of course, Kunal Kapoor. The Season 2 of Amazon Global Selling Program is live now. So if you're a startup, an entrepreneur, or anyone who is looking to create a global business from India, apply now. Applications remain open till 14th March. Thank you very much for joining us today and have a good day.